This is looking a lot like 2008, 2009, and 2010. Now, I've been talking about this for a long time, and it just looks worse and worse and worse. Now, I'm going to tell you, I was here in Phoenix. I was selling real estate. I had a big portfolio personally. I represented investors, but I personally was very, very invested. And during the great financial crisis, Phoenix was the worst place to have real estate investments in all of America. We were the biggest loser. You didn't want to be invested in Phoenix. Now, again, it depends on when we're investing. So we always watch our cash flow. My portfolio is free and clear. We always make sure we have to have cash flow or we're not going to buy it. So the good thing during the great financial crisis was that the rents really didn't get kicked up during the great financial crisis. They didn't explode like they did in the last few years. During the great financial crisis, they barely moved at all, a couple, 2, 3, 4%. Here in around the United States, you can see they went up like 20, 30, 40%. So rents are coming down, but prices went sky high and people went crazy. You know how that was? I mean, no inspections, 30, 40 offers, only cash. We weren't going to allow anybody to look at the property. People making offers sight unseen, crazy stuff. That's what you see when you're in a bubble. Now, my group, personally, I'm a market strategist. We saw this happen. Now, we have two cycles. We watched the housing cycle, which is the real estate cycle. We saw that commercial went into it almost a year before housing started to peak. Housing peaked in July of 2022 here in Phoenix, Arizona, actually June of 2022. And here's the other kicker. We saw liquidity peak almost to the month as housing here in Phoenix. So those were big tells for me. And of course, I run models, and our model went red. And we went on a moratorium for 90 days in June of 2022. And we're still on that moratorium because it was the right call. We just cratered from there. And we're going to go over that. But what's happening now? I got this morning. Let me go to this with let me open this up a little bit so you can see this with Zerohedge. And this is with Nick Gurlie. Now, Nick Gurlie sent this out, and I haven't checked his data, but he says in Florida and Texas alone, there's 261,000 active listings, double the entire Northeast of the United States. And I'm going to tell you, if that is true, and I'm thinking it was, Phoenix is going to pass that great financial crisis crown for having the worst real estate investments in the country to Florida and Texas. So we're finally getting out from under it, and it's going to go to Florida and Texas. So if you've got holdings in Florida or Texas, you need to start talking to your advisors and make some kind of a strategy as to what you're going to do. Here in Phoenix, we also anticipated the fact that we peaked and that we would have a drawdown on values. We instituted a program. We are more concerned about the credit and quality of the tenant rather than maximizing a rent. And that has just done us really, really well because we put very good tenants in our properties 2 years ago. We're in that affordable home space, and most of our tenants have a tendency of staying with us for 3, 4, 5 years. It's not unusual at all. So we did that in 22 and 23. So we're anticipating to run that out because we discounted our rents, not by much, 1%, 2%, 3%, $50, $100, and we got outstanding tenants. And of course, when you do that, now, if you come to our seminars, we talk about this all the time, is that vacancy is a cancer. You can't have vacancy. And we hear this all the time. Well, market doesn't care what you need. Markets only give you what it's going to give. And the sooner you get there, the better off you are to get that. So I just leased one of my personal residents. I had a tenant that had been there for a long time, was in an accident, a young man, and had to go home. So we leased it, and I leased it in 5 days. We had multiple ones. Because we knew what the rent was, and we went just a little bit before. We had leased it before for 16 and a quarter. I listed it this time 15.75. Got 5 offers, like in 5 days. Great property, great tenants. We're very, very pleased. That's the institution that we've been talking about. We've been advising that $50 doesn't make a big difference to me, but it makes a great difference to the tenants. We get better quality. So we've been talking about that because we know what's coming. So let's go over some of my findings, and let's just talk about what we see. So here's a little bit of perspective. Look what's going on now. Miami, of course, was a problem in the Great Financial Crisis as well. Here's housing bubble number 1. Got this from Wolf Street, and look at housing bubble number 2. Now look at all of this resolves. This is when you have crazy stuff where you can't get affordability. You can't get affordability because prices have gone out of control. This is exactly what happened in 2007. The precursor to the decline in 2008 was the fact that affordability was at that time historic. We couldn't see it. It was really, really expensive. Houses had really appreciated, really way beyond where they should have been. And of course, that was resolved, and it was resolved brutally here in Phoenix, Arizona. And look what's going to happen to Miami. Now, this is a big one in Florida. This all has to be resolved. All of this all has to be resolved. Now, this resolved down to here. If this resolves down to here, there is going to be some really major problems. So I'm thinking, in Phoenix, now some of my portfolio, my portfolio only declined about 5%. Maintenance went down, management problems went down, insurance went down, taxes went down. We ended up basically just about evening out. But the values declined like 65% on some of our properties. And we didn't care because, we're income investors. I still own a lot of those properties. But what happens if this goes down 65%? What if it comes back down to here? It's up to 450,000 plus now. What if it corrected like 30 or 40%, 50%, 60% it did in here? You could see these properties down 250,000. That would be some enormous losses for investors. I know these are paper losses. I hear this all the time. Paper losses really, really hurt. It's hard. So that's just perspective. I'm telling you, if you're in Florida and you're an investor, we can do a 1031 exchange, get you out of there. If you look at my other prior videos, and if you like my videos, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Man, does YouTube algorithms love that. Last couple of ones, we've been talking about what's going on in Phoenix, because Phoenix changed. We used to be a construction town. Now we've become a manufacturing town and a high-tech town, which is pretty amazing. We're right next door to California. We're getting rid of the number 2. And what's hidden, it's kind of like a secret. We're like the number 2 startup for high tech in a country next to Silicon Valley. And you can do it here for like 35% of what it costs you in California. Plus, we're becoming a microchip manufacturer. We have the Taiwan semiconductor plants here. And, look at my prior visitors. There's just employment is exploding here. So we're not going to be immune. We're obviously not going to be immune because we got overly exuberant too, but we're not going to wear the crown this time. So what I'm saying is that if you are an investor in any of these cities, again, we've talked about endangered cities as well, because we're on the cusp, I think, of a major drawdown. If you have properties in New York or Milwaukee, Chicago, St. Louis, Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles, San Diego, and you want to get out, we can easily do a 1031 exchange, which is very, 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 very reasonable. And we can move your properties from one state here to Arizona, and you're not going to incur a capital gains event. We'll defer that tax. Doing that all the time. Let me get back to my next slide. So let's just talk about what we see here. So now this comes from Charles Hugh Smith. I have used this many, many times, and if you look at that, look at this And look at this. They look very, very similar. This was, however, done in January of 2023. And he was forecasting what would happen. So, during the bubble one, we never really completed. We should have come down here to baseline. But, if you look at my prior videos, you'll see that Janet Yellen and group in the Federal Reserve, they start putting trillions of dollars of liquidity into the economy. And of course, it short-circuited. We should have come down a little further. We didn't complete. And then it just went off. And of course, you can see here is this would be the accumulation phase and the explosive phase. Just like this. Crazy stuff. Look at this. I mean, you can see this. And this has to resolve because this is not normal. I'll go to my next slide here. Now, this is what's going on here in Phoenix. I want you to take a look at this. This is really what we have. Now, this is one of our portfolio properties. We purchased this property for $315,000 in March of 2020. And it went up in 2 years, right up here. June of 2022, it peaked at $510,000. That is a startling amount of appreciation in just a few years. We quit buying, went on a moratorium here just to see what happened. And of course, it's classic. We start to decline, and it has declined. So it is now down to about $420,000 from $510,000. Now, it's nowhere near where it is. Now, this is right up by the chip manufacturing plant. So you can get an 1,800 square foot house for $400,000. I'm anticipating it's probably going to go down to $325,000, $335,000, and I think that's going to happen reasonably soon, and that's going to cash flow like crazy. We bought this house at $315,000. We're cash flowing like crazy. This is just a great one. Let me go to my next slide and let's just take a look at that. So this is kind of what I think is going to happen. We peaked here in June 2022. It's amazing is that my timing model went off at the same time, just as it peaked. Now, when you're in real time, you don't know if it's going to continue going up, but it didn't, the next month it didn't go up. And that's when we quit buying, saying, well, where's the top? Well, was that the top? Yes, it was. We quit putting out new capital, and you can see it just dropped right away. I mean, this is real market indications, and it's kind of bounced along here. And I think this is going to go down and probably come around about what we paid for it in 2020. It could go down. We of course made a very good buy when we bought this. So the market probably will go down to 320 thereabouts. We'd be very, very interested in that property at that point. Now here's another one. I'm going to tell you, this is a property, another one of our what we call a universe of homes. So this is another one. It's about 1,600 square feet. It's in Surprise. And it's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. Surprise has an HOA. It's about $60 a month. Has 2 pools that in a community, so you don't need a pool for yourself. And it's in Surprise where there's Air Force people. A lot of retired Air Force. The community just looks gorgeous because everybody it's just military clean, and it went from up to $427,000. It was a really, really good property. You can walk to grade school. You can walk to middle school. Kids can come home for lunch here. Safe. It's clean. Very affordable. And it came down. Now, right here was a purchase. This was done by a national investment company. They saw this property, had an opportunity to buy it at $369,000 for this property right here. That's what they paid, $369,000. Thinking, well, okay, we can clean it up, we can paint it, we can put some flooring in and fix the landscape, and it's going to be worth, a lot of money. It's going to be up here around $427,000. So this is my warning to flippers. You need to pay very close attention to this because they've sat on the market for 6 months at $369,000, and they just reduced it to $361,000. It's less than what they paid for it. Do you get that? Less than what they paid for it 6 months later, and they fixed it all up. they put capital in it. They fixed the flooring. They painted it. They cleaned it. They fixed the roof. And they're carrying this property, and they're already $8,500 below what they paid for it just 6 months ago or 7 months ago. So if you're a flipper, and when we're in a marketplace, let me just talk about this, is that you can't get in front of the curve. So when we're in that very special time, now this only happens for about 2 years, maybe not even 2 years, but you have a substantial decline. And when the market starts to decline, it's very, very difficult to get in front of it, because you're always looking in the rear view mirror thinking that, gosh, this is a great buy. This sold for $427,000, just 18 months ago, and I could buy it for $361. Well, they couldn't, or $369, I guess they paid for it. And they couldn't. They put $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000 into it. Plus, they have to pay commissions on this, both inside and out. They're going to have to pay closing costs. They're probably going to have to pay points. The builders are paying anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000, $60,000 in concessions. So I'm going to guess that this property is going to take a beating. Now, if you were this is a $100 million company. This is just a huge company. They understand it. They're going to take that loss. If you're interested in it, let me know. I think it's just slightly too high, unless you can buy it really, really well. I think it's still slightly too high. I think this property is probably going to come down another 10-15%. Now, so if you're a flipper and you bought it for $369,000 thinking you're going to sell for $4.25, and you find out you're going to sell it for $3.25, oh, put you out of business. We see this. I saw this during the Great Financial Crisis. Let me open this up. Let me go back to my slides so we can talk about that. Now, I got this from Melody Wright. So if you're a flipper, you have to pay attention. You wonder why the prices and the averages continue to go up. That's because if you look at here, this is where the market is. It's in the $750,000 to $1 million and $1 million plus. Look at the low end. Under $100,000, there's not much around for less than $100,000, but the business dropped off. A lot of stuff in the low end here, 6.5%. It just dropped off. So they're falling. And sales distribution, the sales distribution is very, very small. Here's where the market is. It's up at the upper end. Obviously, if you have more houses selling at the upper end, it's going to drive the median and the average. Average really, really a lot. Average will really go up. So if you're a flipper, what price range do you think you should be flipping in? We've got an increase of 44% in the Northeast at 45%. In the South, it's 28%. This is where the market is. Midwest, it's 51%. The market is $750,000 to $1 million. That's where the market is right now. So this is where we're at. I'm going to tell you, I've added this. The change is the sum of fundamental trends, the gradual elimination of accumulated extremes, and the random arrival of new shocks. And we are poised for a shock. This is true for nearly every process, including, for example, economic growth and real estate market returns. I have to tell you that this is a problem. If you are a flipper, you don't realize that the market's coming down. We're always so optimistic. We don't understand that the market's changed. And this is where it puts you out of business. This is where you have to be very, very careful. Because if you don't realize that the market is completing, it's coming over, because there's only about 18 months to 2 years of drop like this, and we're entering that time frame. This is where you get debt and capital destruction on massive scales. This is where the really, really, really problems are. So if you need to sell, you better do it quick, because prices, I think, nationally are going to come down. Some, the Florida, Texas are really going to be in trouble. The exuberance there was just out of control, and it's going to resolve. This is how you resolve. Affordability. It comes down, and we're going to want to buy. Now, I can see this on my charts. I've got 4 buying points, and we are going to want to buy as much as we possibly can. And of course, we have a buy box. If it doesn't cash flow, we're not going to do that. It has to be good. It has to be, we want to get a buy, and I think we're going to get some great buys. This is the time frame where fortunes are made. So if you feel like you'd like to retire but you don't have enough money, you're going to have an opportunity. It's going to be scary. Scary. People are going to say, I'm never going to do this. And that is the best time. So that is what Warren Buffett is waiting for. He's waiting for this event, and he's going to buy. And we are too. So put your cash together, get your credit pristine, protect your cash flows. If you've got a job, if you're doing some things, make sure that you can show income, because we're going to want to leverage. This is time we have been putting mostly cash. We're going to want to start putting some leverage onto our properties, because we want to buy more properties, and we want to get these paid off and enhance our returns. So I think this is a great opportunity coming to us. I would like to see you take advantage of this. If you need anything, if you need me, this is where you can reach me. I think we have a balance sheet recession looking right in front of us. I'm more than happy to do a consultation with you. We got a new rule, cost you a couple to $300, not very much. Spend an hour and a half, 2 hours together, and then we'll get you qualified. Make sure that I'm a good fit for you. My team's a good fit. We've been doing this for many, many years. I personally have a fairly large real estate portfolio of my own. Mine are free and clear, so we cash flow like crazy. But I've been doing this for a really long time, so I understand the business extremely well. All my people are very well versed in this. So make sure we're a good fit for you, and that you're a good fit for us. We'll talk about your goals. We want to talk about if you have some events in your life, you've got kids that are graduating high school, and you're going to need some money for college and stuff. We can set that stuff up and see how you fit, and make sure that we can develop a program to protect your purchasing power and to enhance your cash flow. So listen, if I can help in any way, you know where to reach me. Give me a thumbs up, guys. See ya. Bye-bye.